Hey everyone, welcome to the Splatty League podcast. Today I'll be your host. Chris is out. I'm here with James. How you doing?
Doing just okay after Rule 9. Just okay.
Yeah, we both of us are not the happiest bunch waking up this morning, seeing that we didn't really nail the picks that we were hoping. So today's little episode is going to be a reaction to both keepers and the Rule 9 results. But let's just kind of talk about how the process was. How was that for you?
It was fun. First of all, I feel like we've got a good setup in terms of submitting picks. I always forget this league has such a high 49er like sway, where I was like, okay, I'll put in a bid for 4-1 for Ayuk. I think he's like gonna go off this year. And I was like, of course someone bid a third round pick for Brandon Ayuk. Like, what was I thinking? But no, it was fun. And I think the division component made it like also super fun to be like, oh, okay, well, Antonio's team is stacked, but I don't have to worry about that until playoffs.
Thanks. Cool. Thanks for reminding me. Yeah, I think what's weird too, and me and Antonio were kind of going back and forth on it, but like certain trades that you make before your keeper selection, and then even into the Rule 9, he's like, why are you trading with people in your division? Because I think me and Spencer made a couple moves where I moved up in the third, but like I don't know if that part matters yet. And I think that was kind of in the past discussions that we had, like how much do we value I guess any of the rivalries that are maybe formed during the creation of these divisions. So that'll be we'll see how that impacts as years continue. But I had a lot of fun. I think for me, I was always set. My keepers were always going to be Austin Eckler and Kareem Hunt. I thought though, with having more of the middle round or like early middle rounds, the 3 to 5, this was a year that I thought that I was definitely going to walk away with more in the Rule 9. And again, I have the board up if you're watching on YouTube, but I got none. So I'm going to have to figure out how the draft goes and see who kind of falls to me, because my first reaction just in general, looking at the board, is people spent on Rule 9 hoping to have future keepers. And I don't know if you feel the same, that it does seem like some people went a little higher than I would have thought.
Yeah, I think the first, like thinking back to the first year of Rule 9, it was like, where can I get value and like steal someone in like the 7th when they should be like a 3rd round pick? And it's definitely turning more into, I like this guy and he's valued in the 3rd round and I want him. So like I'll bid a 3rd round pick and just guarantee that I get him and not wait till draft day, which is cool, but bit me in the ass with my bids. And I wonder if you feel the same a little.
Yeah, I think what's weird, and it came up in conversations as I was like, trying to get as many nuggets as I could to hear like, oh, who are people trying to like go for? But like this year, and I don't know, we all did a really good job with wide receivers this year, and like we're starting to get a lot more better like at getting long-term keepers for running backs. But there were so many options on the Rule 9 that, I mean, I have no problem. Like here, I'm going to pull over my little sheet, right? So like, and I don't know, has Chris sent out the one that has like who bid on what? He's done that.
I think so, yeah.
But
I'll throw it in the chat.
Long story short, like I was so compacted on where I could have picked people at what I needed that like, yeah, you're right. I didn't know that we had so many Niners fans that were going to push it. You were surprised he went to the 3rd. I was shocked he went to the 4th, because we have different, a different draft than like what you get from like the actual podcast or like the expert community. But I don't know. It's still thinking like, okay, well, do you really want to blow up the beginning of your draft to get these guys that are potentially keepers? Right? Like that's the hard part, is balancing their true value for future years and what you're getting them at now. So It'll be interesting. I think it was a lot of fun. I hope it's like this every year. I know that Chris was talking about adding another keeper, and while that makes keeper selection easier, I kind of don't want it to change Rule 9. Like right now, I think we're in a sweet spot of lots of talent pool and a lot of bitterness when you see the results. And I think that's so fun, even though like I'm sitting here again pissed off that I have no one. But yeah, and how about you? Do you think after even just this year that we really should open up to an additional keeper?
Yeah, I like the idea of a third keeper just because I feel like the keeper selections in the past have been where can I just get the most value of like this is like a WR1 or RB1 and I can get them in the 6th or later. Whereas I think a third keeper, there's going to start to be more like 1st and 2nd round keepers of like a Joe Mixon in the 2nd. Like that's kind of where he's valued, but like I'm at the end of the 2nd and I want him. I don't think he was even keeper eligible, but I think it'll add more like they're not value picks, but kind of like what Rule 9 is becoming of like, I just want to make sure I keep this guy at his draft value.
Yeah.
And thin Rule 9 out a little bit because I was like all over the place of like, there's so many names that I want and I only have so many picks and like my 2 6th-round, like mid-round picks are going to keepers. So like, what do I do with these like high value draft picks? So I think a third will just add that fun like wrinkle in keeper selection, and then I think it'll make end of season trades more interesting too, just because those are always like with the playoff contenders with a third keeper. Like I think that'll be interesting how that plays out at the end of the season.
Yeah, I would hope it would invite more trading, but I don't know, we'll see. So I think to kind of keep the reaction portion of this, let's start with just keepers. I have the board up. I don't know if you're pretty like I had looked at this board all week, so I can tell you I know right away who's the Rule 9 versus the keeper of each player. But let's start with like your favorite keeper selection. Like what manager made the best select, either individual player or like pair?
I love the Darrell Henderson, Justin Jefferson stack for Antonio in the 10th. I remember, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but he traded for the rights to Darrell Henderson. And I just think he's going to go off with Cam Akers out. And I think there's some like long-term potential there because an Achilles injury, like I don't think Akers will be back in anything outside of like a deep like RB committee. So that mixed with like Justin Jefferson, who has the potential to be like one of the top 3 overall receivers, both of them in the 10th, I was just like, it set him up to then like dominate the Rule 9 draft at the top of the draft board. So those were a great stack in my mind.
Yeah, I think it's interesting with Darrell Henderson because he just everyone's always like been in awe of his talent as kind of that compliment back to Cam Akers, but he's always had the ability to actually just handle some of the load. And I guess we'll see, right? I mean, injuries happen all the time, but you're right. Him and Justin Jefferson in the 10th is just huge value. I would say my favorite player that, or it's more of the payoff from last year is Hunter's selection of Antonio Gibson and Terry McLaurin. I think finally paid off because now he kind of the same way of Justin Jefferson being, in the 2nd round or 3rd round of most standard drafts, Terry McLaurin in the 12th, and to have the rights to keep him. I think it really helped for the same reason you said for Antonio, kind of opening up the early portion of his draft. It really helped Hunter because looking just the way that he was able to set it up in Rule 9, he has a very competitive team for sure. So then I guess, we talked about the favorite picks. I think we're in agreement of what we think is the most questionable. I don't think no one has the right to say worst keeper pick. But is there one there that you noticed that was head scratching?
Yeah, I think there's one that we're both going to agree pretty heavily on, and that is Christian Kirk in the 10th, when I would argue he might go undrafted.
Yeah, I think, look, we both can't really say much because at this point he is the reigning
And he made the
champ.
championship.
So he knows something. He's probably clicked in with the Cardinals training camp and is watching all the video. But I think what made it confusing to me is that I don't even think he is the number 2. They just picked up AJ Green over the offseason. Yes, he came off an injury, but he has a lot to prove. And now that he's not the number 1, I think that opens up a lot more for him. And so it'll be interesting. I think, I do want to refrain from saying worst keeper pick, but most head scratching. You're right. I don't know if he would have even gotten drafted. I don't know if you got time to pull it up, but we could have pulled up to see what wide receiver he is. But I think the point has been made. Let's go to favorite Rule 9 draft or pick.
I will stay with Travis and double Travis Kelce with the 111. I was the only other bid for Kelce with the 112 and was very disappointed to see that he got nabbed a pick ahead of me. I think Travis Kelce is like on par with like the WR1, and for Travis to just guarantee that he gets him at the end of the first when he might have gone a little earlier, I'm jealous. And I just love that pick.
Yeah, and we'll kind of take a look at the I had it up, but we could talk about it after, just kind of looking at what maybe some of the interesting trends were from it.
Mm-hmm.
I think my favorite overall is I am going to go back to Hunter as I kind of review this. And honestly, I think Antonio, Hunter, and Chris obviously grabbing the most players, I think came out of the Rule 9 probably feeling pretty comfortable going into the draft and entering the season. But I really like, Darren Waller in the second there. AJ Brown. I was going to put a bid, but I heard from a little birdie that there were a couple of people in the second round who were going to take it. So I didn't end up going in on him. Brandon Ayuk, which we're both fans of. Lamar Jackson, even though spending a 4th, he still kind of keeps that keeper value. And Antonio Gibson. Mark Andrews is maybe the only head scratching part, is why go to tight ends, but maybe the same reason that you were talking about for Kelce essentially being viewed as a wide receiver 1. Darren Waller might have very similar kind of results at the end of each week, right? He's a valuable flex, and then you could throw Mark Andrews in at tight end,
Yeah, and just looking at Hunter's number of early picks, I think there was probably the known knowledge that Kelce would be kept in the first and the fear that Waller would be kept to throw in the Mark Andrews in the 6th. And I mean, he has Ayuk, Brown, Gibson, McLaurin, all as keepers with still a 3rd and a 1st round pick. So like, he can trade Andrews, he can keep him in case of injury. He's got a ton of flexibility. So I liked that. And I'm jealous that I didn't also put a backup tight end Rule 9 submission in, because I think it's actually going to pay off pretty well.
Yeah, looking at the board now, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tight ends off the board, and one team and one manager has 2. So it'll be, I think, a little bit easier for someone like me to wait on tight end, considering I don't think we are the league that needs 2 tight ends. While it works when you have 2 valued players like Waller and Andrews, it's not typical and not necessary per se. So I would say my favorite Rule 9. I mean, I just said, Hunter. Yeah, cool. Moving on. What is your here? I'll start so you don't have to have all the pressure of always going first. What your least favorite, or our least favorite Rule 9 pick? And I'm just gonna go out and just say, I think spending a 5th round on Jamal Williams is a little rich. I also went on Jamal Williams. I like what he can do in Detroit. If you're going for the value of a running back for long term, my fear with Jamal Williams and more of the Detroit Lions is that they are a team that is so bad that the coach turnover and the scheme turnover is so frequent that I just don't know if Jamal Williams will have a long-term career. So to spend a 5th round is rich. Now he does get to sit. He has Chris Carson in the 2nd round, and you would presumably think he's going whoever's left out of the top 3 or 4 running backs on the board. So he has depth. I don't think having him as your 3rd RB is that bad, but it was a little rich when I saw that. I was like, okay. I mean, even looking at Noah Fant in the 8th is like another one that I think is, or Gesicki in the 9th. Sorry, Chris. But yeah, it's interesting. How about you?
Yeah, that was going to be my pick, but going off that, I think it's how many tight ends went off in Rule 9 for, I think, higher than they would have gone. I think, Noah Fant, TJ Hawkinson, Dallas Goedert, Mike Gesicki. I think all of them are TJ Hawkinson maybe is a tier above the other 3, but I think they're all just like risky tight end plays if they're the tight end 1. Like, kudos to those managers for knowing that like the big 3 were going to go off the board very early and getting someone guaranteed on their roster. But I think all of them are kind of slight overpays.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, it's funny. We're still getting a hang of everything when it comes to the Rule 9. And this year, maybe we just had everyone was sampling the buffet just a little too much and getting a little too excited, because while I agree with running backs and wide receivers that overpaying their current value, their current ADP makes sense because of the long-term projections. Tight end is another one that I think is, you can get them later in the rounds. I think historically our trend is that our quarterbacks get drafted pretty late in our league, and so do tight ends. We do usually have like it's an 8th to 9th round run, and so that that's fine with Noah Fant, Dallas Goedert, and Gesicki. But I think if that run was to even have started in the 8th or 9th, you could have got like Gesicki in the 11th or 12th, and probably the same. I think I got Goddard I guess that was a couple of years ago. And if he was a keeper now, what was his, do you have I can just open it up, what his original value was? Because I think that's like the other thing is how much more did you spend to get these wide receivers? TJ Hawkinson came from great value. Gesicki in the 12th, so you probably could have even spent a 10th. And I guess we'll look at that's what I kind of want to do to round this out at the end, is just like kind of look at the main competitions for each player. And so, I mean, Goddard was an 11th, so it's kind of interesting that went in the 8th or 9th. But let's just go ahead and dive in. We'll talk about maybe the players that just got the most. Brandon Ayuk obviously is a hot commodity because I think what you said is we're a whole bunch of Niners fans. I think why we don't really see anyone before that, just AJ Brown and Allen Robinson really being like the early round keepers. And I guess along with Waller, right? I think he was technically he was a later round value, but is a lot of the trades that happened last year left several managers without early picks. And I think having seen in the past that some managers might actually be able to lose their draft because they spend a second, and then if they don't draft until the 6th round, you're just losing so much more building capability. So I wonder if that's kind of why they was lower. Because I went on AJ Brown, or I originally did, knew I wasn't going to get him, but it seems like that was a pretty valid competition. But Brandon Ayuk, I don't think anyone would probably regret any of the bids they put, thinking that they were competitive. It's just hard when you see that, he did go for a third round, and, Chris got sniped there by Hunter. Just a one pick difference. And then Hoyt just, jumping on the bandwagon at his 11th round. Do you have anything you'd like to add to Brandon Ayuk and maybe why he was so valuable over someone like Deebo Samuel, who was available?
I first of all, I just think it's a cool part of Rule 9 that like he's valued at the 11th, and so like I think someone I highlighted and was like, man, if I could get him in the 6th, like that's a huge jump up from like where his keeper value's at, and like maybe I could like. I went up to like the 4-1 being like, you know what, like I'm probably the highest bidder, but I really want him. And then to see him go in the 3rd. But I think with Ayuk, you just saw so much from the rookie year. And like, there's all of the like fantasy chat about like the 2nd, 3rd year jump in rookie wide receivers. And with Trey Lance in the wings and like the deep ball possibility, and knowing that Deebo has some injury history, it's just like too enticing for all of those reasons outside of he's the hometown kid. And like, you want to have Niners players on the roster after so many years of Niners players being irrelevant fantasy wise. You're just like, I want my hands on like the Niners player that's legit.
Like, exactly. I think the hardest thing, and I had been saying it every time that we would have some sort of reaction or like group text about the draft. And I'm just always so disappointed when they never would go wide receiver, because, we, other than what is it? Anquan Bolden, like that was Crabtree. Those were like the last couple names, and those people haven't played on the team in years. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I'm excited that I know 2 wide receivers on their team, and that I'm excited about both, because I look at this and this is what I was trying to do during the Rule 9 was try to choose the unpopular player, or like, I think Deebo this week maybe just fell behind Brandon Ayuk in like the consensus rankings, or at least the ones I was looking at. And so it's a bummer, because had I gone on Deebo Samuel, I still would have felt excited. But I could have got him maybe a little bit later since there was no bids. The next player also kind of makes sense here, is Chase Claypool. A fantastic season last year, kind of a breakout, came out of nowhere, big body receiver for Big Ben. I will be honest, when I put in I didn't put a bid because I switched over trying to think, I was trying to play like the counter, like, oh wait, I'm going to put it in. This is the sneaky pick. He's kind of injured already. And then all of a sudden I'm like, no, I'm going to go Deontay Johnson. Chase Claypool definitely has a lot of value. A lot of bids were put on him. And it looks like it really just came down to putting the 5th. Is there a reason why you didn't, or did you value Deontay Johnson more, or?
I just figured there was going to be a ton of Chase Claypool bids, and I don't have any 5th or 6th round Rule 9 bid opportunities with keepers and draft trades. So I figured he was going to go early. I love Chris's bid in the 5th. I think he's going to have a huge breakout year. And with the keeper value in the 13th, I think after next year with Big Ben gone, like you're not sure if there'll be value. So why not overpay now and get like a season with Big Ben? Again, I just love all of the like 12th and 13th round bids, hoping that he would, for some reason, Drew, Hoyt, and Travis with the 13th round bids. But
someone just hoping that they'd be forgotten. But like realistically looking at that, I guess there's only 2 competitive bids. Everyone else was just throwing a dart at it, hopefully thinking that he'd get forgotten. And the next kind of, 3 of us went in on Chris Carson. We all valued him generally the same amount. I think that makes sense because he's not this late round keeper. It was pretty much on brand of where he was going. So I think it was a good pickup by Chris. Damian Harris got a little bit of traffic there. I thought I could sneak that in right at the 8 and people were not going to be that happy about it, or not going to actually make any moves on it. But you went in on that. What are your thoughts for Damian Harris?
I was kind of surprised I even got him in the seventh. I thought he would go earlier. I think he's one of like the latest drafted like starting running backs in the league. So I think the kind of hope is Mac Jones starts sooner rather than later, and the goal line work isn't split with like Cam and that the like crowded running back room in New England. He's kind of runs away with it. But I think it's the potential for a starting running back, which is so hard to draft in our league now with keepers in Rule 9 and getting them decently late.
Yeah, I think that's like when I was looking at using my third round for a keeper and I spent it with Chris Carson, and I kind of had chatted with Antonio about this, even though we're in division, but whatever, was trying to look at where you can get value. And in our league, we're just so hungry for running backs that it's hard to look at the second and third round. Like I tried to look at just consensus rankings again, counting out everyone who has already a keeper and going down. And I was getting just the scariest looking running backs. And I'm like, I'm glad I have to, and I will have to by that point, because if you did not land a running back or did not keep a running back in our league, it's going to be a brutal draft unless you're one of like, if you're one of the first 5 or 6 picks, but it's like anything after that, like, I don't know how comfortable I would really feel with Najee Harris being my only, RB1 and then having to wait till later in the draft and picking up, a whole bunch of dart throws. It'll be hard to kind of go into that. That's why I'm glad I kept running backs. So then I mentioned Deontay Johnson, but didn't think that I thought there would have been more competition for him. I don't know if the Chase Claypool is just the hotter pick and that his keeper value is only the 6th round. So I think this would be the second year next year. So he'd be kept at a 4, I think. So
yeah,
I think it was an appropriate level. I guess if I could have, I would have bid it higher, but Antonio got him. DJ Moore, another guy, everyone kind of went right about the same value. Sucks when you choose the only round you have for him and it just happens to be a higher value. So missed out. Good old Buckner got his bids. And then this brings back the whole Chris, right? And I think this is kind of proof again, like I'm just gonna go ahead and highlight that he went in the 5th. Everyone kind of was already valuing him in the double digits. So I think it is an overspend. Hopefully it doesn't bite him in the ass. I think people are always able to draft their way out of some of these holes. But that just was really rich, but he got the player he likes. I don't know. I just like the player in general. That's the reason why no matter what, I was going to have a bid on him. That guy is the funniest thing. I keep sending every Instagram.
Any mic'd up video. He's just like a ray of sunshine.
Yeah, he's just like Gooper. Yeah. Like, I think people were talking about like whether he watches the news or something or whatever. And he was like, nah, I'm watching anime. And I'm just like, fuck yeah. This guy's got such a good vibe. Jared Judy grabbing some bids. Keenan Allen, a lot of them are all the value. Lamar, seems like some people were trying to sneak him in. I definitely put a bid in the 9th. Gesicki, I guess maybe I'm missing something. This is a lot more bids on Mike Gesicki than I would have anticipated. Nothing of high value. Chris locks him up in the 9th, but were people that maybe are we both missing a trend that tight ends are more important in our league?
I put a bit in for Gesicki late. I think there is just, if you can hit on the next like Kittle or Waller of just, it's a position where if you don't get the top 3, you're just praying you get someone who's like decently consistent. And I think there's the hope that Tua will have a breakout year and Gesicki will be the target he's going to. But I think it was like for a 9th round pick, I think it's not bad value for Chris. And there's a chance he is a breakout player, but I think with any tight end kind of after the 8th, it's just a dart throw and you're hoping that you walk out of Rule 9, not having to worry about the tight end position in the actual draft. kind of. I don't know if you can feel that confident with Gesicki, but I kind of like the potential for maybe him and Tua breakout together.
Yeah, I don't know if you. I've been trying to keep track of some of the preseason stuff. Tua had a really good game last. Was it last night or 2 days ago?
Yeah.
So,
and I'm just a sucker for, I watched like 15 minutes of a preseason game and I see like 3 completions to someone who's like Rule 9 or keeper eligible. And I'm like, all right, and now I need to go get them because they looked good in that 15-minute window.
I'm not gonna lie. I was hoping for like a couple more sprayed ankles, something that wouldn't have been that bad, that someone would have just said injury and be like, oh, I can't put a bid in on him.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's as we kind of get towards the end, these are a lot of the dart throws and everything. But Russell Wilson, I think Chris kind of talked about it on the last episode about valuing running backs, quarterbacks as keepers and how many we have later in the rounds. And while I generally agree, I think this is better proof that is the trend of our, I think we're all just looking for such a long-term value now.
Yeah.
And just, I guess, being okay with constantly spending Rule 9 on that, right? Because, I mean, in reality, if you're hoping that you draft maybe some of the rookies out of this year, you're having one of these like late rounds, you can only have so many. You can only keep 2, eventually 3. And maybe that's why people are spending more on tight ends, more on all this, is that they're trying to get that late keeper value because they know they have an additional keeper. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe we're doing this live, we're reacting real time. So maybe that's what it is. It's just interesting to kind of see these trends at the end, because TJ Hawkinson, we'll get to the T Higgins, which holy shit. TJ Hawkinson, I think these are actually like, everyone, I guess, didn't bid as high. No, most people bid 6, 7, 8. That's probably where he's going in draft. So I think that's actually really good value for Spencer. Someone who, the Detroit Lions, as I said before, are very inconsistent, but I think, he had a breakout season his first year. He played well last year. And then, it's looking promising. Goff probably will need something reliable
to check into.
Well, yeah, because he's not going to be able to read a defense since he doesn't have Sean McVay talking to him before was it 10 seconds or 7 seconds?
And Cup and Woods, I mean, who are the Lions starting receivers? Like the rookie, like whatever, St. Brown.
Something like that.
And I think that could be a good pick. But the T Higgins bids, I think I was hoping the league was sleeping on T Higgins, and if I could go back in time, I would have switched my Ayuk bid for Higgins, because I think he's going to be great, but I think it shows that everyone in the league thinks he's going to have a huge year.
Are you afraid of Jamar Chase? Because I think we're all maybe thinking that, they got Jamar Chase, and like maybe no one will bid on him, because like to have, I mean, is that everyone in the league?
It's close.
There's 11 votes. That means one person.
So one person.
Who is it? It's gonna. It might be Kevin. Nope, Kevin's there. It's Travis. Nope, Travis is there.
Nope, Travis is there. Who is it?
Oh, it's Devin.
Spencer's there.
Devin did not go.
Did Devin put any bids? He did.
Yeah, on Russell Wilson. I don't know if he got anyone though.
I don't think so.
No, me and him are the oh my god, are we
soul losers?
Soul losers, baby. Whatever. We just have more availability during the draft. Our team can be more fluid than some of y'all's.
But I think I don't have a fear of Jamar Chase kind of eating into T Higgins targets. I think similar to the Cardinals, the Bengals are going to be like a college style offense and like airing it out quite a bit. And like all of the news out of camp is Jamar Chase is struggling. And I think he didn't play all of last year. So I think on top of him just being a rookie wide receiver, there's like that on top of it. So I think T. Higgins is, I think it's somewhat similar to like the Ayuk Debo conversation,
Yeah.
but Jamar Chase is like, because he was the first wide receiver taken in the actual draft, he just gets this like unnecessary bump in mocks I've seen. And
Yeah.
I think Higgins will be the guy this year and potentially long term in Cincinnati. So
I think what's kind of rude to the other receiver there is Tyler Boyd has also been pretty
yeah.
good. So yeah, it's kind of a three-headed monster. You almost have a Steelers situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's talking about Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson. Juju's still
Juju.
there. Like Juju's like not bad. Yeah. Like
what a fall from grace.
Yeah. And it's so weird though, because I feel like it has nothing to do with his talent. It's just where the target, like he drew a lot of attention because he was the best receiver at the time. But everyone's game plan was to pretty much just keep Juju locked up, maybe not thinking that Deontay Johnson or Claypool would be much. And it turns out they were, right? Because yeah. It's weird that the more that you look at teams, and I think we get more and more into watching games, that there's always 3 or 4 options, but it's I mean, Christian Kirk, that's what they're having in Arizona as well. They got 3 receivers, so it's just picking the right one. We'll see how it goes. You have any final thoughts or anything you're excited about going into this year's draft?
Yeah, I'm excited for kind of where the rest of the quarterbacks shake out. I feel like there's going to be some reaches now of fears of not getting one. Same with tight ends. And yeah, I'm just really excited for like the first 3 rounds with the amount of people off the board. I think there's going to be some names that like would go in like the 6th that are going to be going in the 3rd because of how teams are already shaken out. There's like some people that almost have a starting roster already drafted.
Yeah, again, looking at the board, you kind of have Rocha, Antonio, Chris, and Hunter with a big portion of their like early to mid rounds already used. Yeah. I think it also will change the dynamic of the draft, right? Because we're no longer, we're in snake. Yeah, we traded picks. So maybe some people would be waiting anyway. But like for someone like Chris, who's going to have a run where he's going to pick in the 3rd and then pick in the 11th.
Yeah.
It's like crazy. And so like
a long wait.
Yeah. Even though you might, or like I have the 3-2 and the 4-10, that might go by so fast because, there's one pick taken in, there's a few picks in the 3rd taken already. There's a bunch in the 4th taken already. So that's going to come right back to me. So, I know for me, I did pay for a month subscription to allow me to do mock drafts where you can insert keepers and traded picks.
With Fantasy Pros?
Yep.
Me too, sir.
It's the only thing I love about that podcast is that there's always, every year, there's just a new, like a new fantasy site or something that you can put a $10 payment on. I lied. I have it for 6 months because all I had to do was put $10 on Yahoo and I was just like, cool. But I am going to be running a bunch of mock drafts just to see, because I think with our league, it's going to be easy to panic too. And I think you touched on it with quarterback and tight end, but I think it's going to be for running backs too. I think we've done so good again at finding keeper values that like even people you think wouldn't have been necessarily keepers, Chase Edmonds, Naheem Hines, Jamal Williams, these are names that like they're off the board. So even if you thought you can get them as maybe sneaky picks in the 8th or 9th, it's not going to happen anymore. So I agree. I think watching how trends change in our league with this draft, I don't know about you, but this is the most competitive year for some reason. I feel like I think we're all like really hitting strides and knowing what we're doing with these rules. And so,
I think just like a closing thought in general too, not about any particular pick, but just how the league is set up. And I know we've talked about this in past podcasts of like the goal is making it as fun as possible. And I feel like we've almost got a redraft league to the same place that like a dynasty league is, where I know most people in the league have multiple other teams with other groups of people. And this is, to me, is the most fun league to prepare for because there's so many intricacies And just looking at redraft value, it's like all out the window. And it's like, okay, this guy's valued in the 8th, but like I think he'll be gone in the 3rd, and I'm almost positive someone will put a Rule 9 like pick in for him early. So it's just, I feel like the league's at like a very solid place, and I think divisions and an extra keeper are only going to like continue to add in a positive way to like the intricacies of how this league is set up, because it's like very unique to prepare for. And anytime I'm looking at the clicky drafts board, I'm just like, man, like, is Clyde Edwards-Helaire going to go in like the middle of the 1st, even though like all of the mock drafts have him at the turn of the 2-3? Like, there's just, it's almost impossible to prepare for in like a very fun, chaotic way.
Yeah, I would agree. I think you have a little bit of brown on your nose. I know that Chris isn't here, so yes, you kissed ass to the commissioner just a bit, but I would agree. I think every year I have another keeper league. It's what is it called? The bid, an auction draft, and
Auction draft,
that one's like, it's fun. The only reason I'm staying in that one is I've had DeAndre Hopkins for the last 3 years for $2. So it's like, yeah, okay, I'll just try to make a team to win. And then the work one always seems like a chore, but like this is one that I actively like seek out. Like, well, Chris knows this. I constantly text him about like next things that are happening, or try to reach out and talk about stuff with other people, and it's just that much more fun, because I think at this point we've all grown to have kind of relationship with every other manager in the league, and it is a lot of fun. I'm excited to see how the growth of it continues. This draft will be fun again. I'm assuming we're going to throw together a Zoom. If we need to, I'll host it. Chris, I'll reach out to you after this. Yeah, it's a bummer that we are also in another COVID year where we're not necessarily going to be able to be together, and hopefully that can change next year. But no, yeah, I'm excited to see the future of all of this and see how it changes. But this was a lot of fun. Thank you for reacting with me, James, and everyone else. Have a wonderful week before Christmas. Get ready to have a lot of shit talking. I'm going to have a lot of picks in the middle of the draft because I got no one. So I'll have to be ready to not buy a house in the middle of a draft and actually focus there. So through my little jabs. So everyone enjoy. Have a good week.
Good luck, everyone.
Bye.